Hello and welcome to the Broad Street Hockey Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gilbert. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Joe DeMarini. Joe, long time no see. How you doing, bud?
Feeling all right. Maybe not so much Italian Joe anymore, more Italian Market Joe, considering the events of the last week. But
Yeah.
that whoever skeeted that at me, I was cry laughing. It was fantastic. So thank you for the interaction. How you doing, Gilbs?
Yeah, I'm doing all right. It's felt like it's been so long since Tortorella's been fired, but I'm thinking about it. It's like it hasn't even been a week.
Wait, what? Tortorella got fired?
Yeah.
Wow.
A week ago, Cam York hadn't even been benched yet. So we had been a crazy week here. I don't know if anyone would have bet on John Tortorella being fired, but you could have done so possibly at Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform, and your number one source for all your sports betting action. The Final Four is upon us, and Bet Online has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are played, with the largest selection of odds on everything from college basketball to MLB, NHL, and UFC. Even the Kentucky Derby and NFL season futures are ready for you to bet. In between games, head over to the Bet Online Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. Bet Online, the game starts here. All right, Joe, where do you want to start here? You want to just get into this news here? You want to go Flyers focus to start? What do you want to do?
Let's look around the league real quick because we're a few days behind on the Torts stuff, so
yeah,
I don't know how much new information we can bring to light, but let's do the league. First, Ovechkin's down to 5. He's got 5 to go. They play tonight.
They played tonight against Boston, who has been complete dog shit since trading away Marchand and Carlo and everybody. They've been bad.
Yeah, and apparently all of the Capitals games the remainder of the season will be broadcast on ESPN until the record is broken. So if you're just bored and the Flyers don't play tonight, so you want to watch a hockey game, I think it'll be on ESPN tonight. So it should be fun.
I don't know if it's on like ESPN proper, or just like the ESPN Plus package.
Oh, well, I've got that.
Yeah,
so
I don't think ESPN would put hockey on. Maybe if he was one away, they might change the way they're broadcasting from whatever LeBron's doing. But
yeah,
I think it's ESPN Plus now. Yeah, he's 5 away. Cap's got what, 8 games left, I think.
He's gonna do it.
8, 9. He's gonna do it. It's just a matter of when. They only have 3 home games left, though.
Yeah,
2 on the road. Then we play Chicago. 1 on the road, Carolina, at Columbus, at home against Columbus. So, I mean, it'll be great for him to do it at home, but yeah, it's gonna be great for him no matter what to do it. I mean, he's greatest goal scorer of all time.
Yeah, I think wherever he breaks the record, they will recognize the importance of it.
I think I saw like they limit it to like 7 minutes, like the ceremony when he scores it. And like just do 8 minutes. Come on, just do 8 minutes for Ovechkin.
The great 8 minutes, God, yeah, NHL, it's right
so
there.
Easy, so easy. He takes so long on these video reviews. You can take an extra minute to celebrate Ovechkin.
Wait, so are they doing it mid-game, not like after the game?
No, I think as soon as it happens, mid-game, I'm pretty sure.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, hopefully it's a meaningless game for both teams. I don't know if any of the games remaining are really that important. I guess maybe for Columbus, but yeah, no.
Well,
Ovechkin
for the Caps, if they want the President's Trophy, it is kind of they do kind of have to.
Yeah, but do teams want the President's Trophy? There's like a President's Trophy curse now.
Someone did the data, and it's like 1/3 of the teams that win the President's Trophy do win the Stanley Cup. Like, okay. It's not as bad as people seem to think it is. Maybe it was 1/4, but still, like, it's not that no team does it. And it also bodes well for future success. Like when the Panthers won the President's Cup, they had the cup 2 weeks later. So, or 2 weeks, excuse me, 2 years later, they win a Stanley Cup.
Yeah. So it's good. I didn't realize they're 3 points behind the Jets now, though. I mean, we have a game in hand, so we'll see how that goes there. Gabe Perreault signing with the Rangers.
Yeah, let's talk about NCAA students because a lot of them signed in the past week because they got knocked out. Perreault's one of them. Sam Renzel and Oliver Moore and Jimmy Snuggerud, like a bunch of these. Ryan Leonard signed with the Caps. I think he's debuting tonight.
I think so.
I'm very much keeping an eye on the career of, to a degree, Ryan Leonard, because he was picked one after Michkov. I think clearly Michkov is like the guy. But Gabe Perreault was available to the Flyers at the 2023 draft, and they picked Oliver Bonk over him. And then Perreault went next to the Rangers. So I'm just keeping an eye on his career because I want to know, like, how is it going to compare to Bonk? And this could be the next Caulfield York thing, and we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But Bonk has impressed me enough that I'm like, okay, this could be equal. Maybe we'll see. But how do you feel about the Bonk over Perreault pick? Are you just like whatever?
I think it's fine, and we'll get into this later when we talk more draft stuff. But like, it's fine. Like, it's like because you can. There's so many different people who rank prospects for their job. There's so many scouts out there, and there's never a consensus ranking of who is better, who's going to be better in this system. So I understand, fans be like, oh, why didn't the Flyers get Perreault? But maybe even back then they were considering the college route and not wanting to take college players. So that could have been a thing.
He played on the same team as Gauthier. Like, they went to the same school. I think they might have been the same agent as well. Like, they hadn't traded Gauthier, and they're like, we don't want this guy in the room. Who knows? But it could have been an impact.
They also needed defenseman prospects, if I'm right, for ahead of that Bonk draft.
I guess.
But also first round, you just take best player available. You really do.
And Perreault was clearly, it was kind of surprising. Also, he's a left wing. Be a perfect complement to Matvei Michkov. I was disappointed at the time. I've come around on it. But
do you think he may have been too similar to Cutter, and they were like, all right, we already have a left wing sniper. Should we?
Well, they already knew that Gauthier wasn't signing going into that draft.
Oh yeah, they did, didn't they?
Yeah.
So, interesting. I don't think. Well, maybe then they knew Perreault wouldn't sign if Perreault is friends with him, or has the same agent.
Friends and on the same team.
Yeah.
So we will probably never know. But maybe the same reason that Bouillon fell in the 2024 draft, maybe he communicated to certain teams like, I'm not going to sign with you. Maybe Perreault communicated we don't know, and we might never. But his career is one that I'm going to keep an eye on just because of what could have been for the Flyers at some point. But maybe the Rangers will do something stupid and trade him because they're locked into their core and desperate.
The Rangers haven't. I mean, Lafreniere, like we're like, all right, he's finally breaking out, and now he's like back to being whatever. They traded Kakko. Like, they can't develop guys. It's a shame. It's a shame to see there for.
It's a real shame.
The Rangers, but Flyers signed Carson Dorwart out of Michigan State.
Sure did.
I think we talked about him a little bit last podcast because there was reports he had.
It wasn't official, I don't think.
No.
Yeah.
It's official now. I think he's going to join the team whenever and potentially play on Saturday in Montreal there. I believe that's that game. 31 points this year in 35 games for Michigan State. He's a center. He's 22. So, hopefully Noah Cates type where he can come in and play bottom 6 minutes. But you can never have too high of hopes for these undrafted college players.
Yeah, they're on the older side and playing against younger players. I mean, one comment I saw that was quite interesting on BroadStreetHockey.com. Please subscribe and read. One of our commenters pointed out, like, even if he doesn't make it to the NHL, but is just a really good AHLer, guess who that helps? All the prospects that are going to be developing on the Phantoms. Like, having good players on your AHL team only benefits your younger players who are trying to break into the NHL, because at least they have. It's the same complaint we had when Michkov came over. It's like, who's the talent he's going to play with? You could say the same thing, like, who's Denver Barkey going to play with in the AHL? Like, Anthony Richard? I don't know, man. Like, we love Tony Dick, but that's not going to move the needle for a prospect like that. So, we'll see what happens. I'm excited to get some new faces in the lineup, and we might get some more. Alex Bump and Devin Kaplan are still, I believe, in the NCAA tournament. Maybe they sign out of this. I don't expect Kaplan to, but maybe Bump would. So keep an eye on that for the next week or two.
Yeah, I wonder if they would bring Bump up to the NHL or just put him in the AHL there with Jet Luchenko down there. Jet Luchenko played 2 games over the weekend. Thomas did a good shift by shift of that. If you haven't checked it out, and of course, make sure you subscribe to Broad Street Hockey. We're over 1,000. We're keeping going here, so make sure you subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple to Broad Street Hockey podcast. Appreciate all of that. But yeah, I mean, this Storwork guy, yeah, let's get him in here, see what he's got. Like, I like Rodrigo Abels. He's whatever. Like, I feel like he is a fine 4th liner, but if you want to bring this guy in and see him for a few games, why not?
Why not? I don't know the way contracts and stuff works for signing and going to the AHL, and the fact that they have
Joe is rubbing his temples right now for the audio listeners.
So confusing. It is such a mess. The Flyers can't recall Jet Luchenko because he's assigned to the Phantoms and they've used their recall. They can add Carson Dorwart because he wasn't on the Phantoms and he signed an ELC, so he can just go straight to the Flyers. Alex Chiernik signed a amateur tryout contract, not an ELC, and the ATO is with the Phantoms. So even if they wanted to recall him, they can't because it's not an NHL contract. Like, if Bump signs an ELC, the Flyers can add him straight. But if they do that and then send him back down to the Phantoms, he can't play on the playoff team with the Phantoms. I think that's correct. We'll have to ask prospect expert Matty Campbell, but I think that's how that works.
So if Bump joins the Flyers, he can't. I don't know if that. I don't know
if he suits up for the Flyers. If he plays a game with the NHL club, he will not. He'll be an NHL player, and because back in March there was like the deadline to make the paper transactions so that the players could play on the playoff runs for the AHL. He wasn't part of that paper transaction. So I think if he plays for a game for the Flyers, they can send him to the AHL, but he can't play in the playoffs or something like that. Our listeners will correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
We'll get angry comments about how wrong we are. But yeah, that's. I mean, hopefully Bump signs. Hopefully he's able to play wherever. Phantoms should be more exciting the rest of the season and definitely next season as the prospects continue to come up there.
Listen, this next season is enormous for the Phantoms because it is the first year that Danny Briere's draft picks are going to be, outside of Jet, but the first year that his draft picks are going to be turning pro. Bonk, Barkey, Bjarnason, Chiernik, probably 1 or 2 others that we're not thinking of. Like this is it. This is the time for him to prove like we're going to develop these players the right way so that they can join this team and be impact NHLers.
Yeah, and maybe we'll see a exciting coach in the AHL if we can get Briere to get his own coach in there after getting his own coach in potentially at the NHL level.
Yes,
for almost 15 minutes in here, haven't even talked about John Tortorella was fired, of course, on Thursday. We have plenty of reaction to it out there. Instant reaction. 5 coaches can replace him. 5 players are happy he's gone. Reacting to Briere's press conference. So I'm sure you guys all check that out. If not, go back and listen to that. But we want to do kind of more of a bigger picture thing about because I feel like the reaction right now is like, all right, thank God Torts is gone. It was tough to deal with, but it's kind of a situation where going through it kind of sucks, but you look back on it, and it's like, all right, that wasn't too awful. It's the opposite of the whole tanking conversation where like you're enjoying the games right now, but in the future you're going to look back and be like, oh, I wish we had a higher draft pick. But yeah, Tortorella and the York situation is definitely taking the main focus, but there were a decent amount of pros and cons from Tortorella's tenure here.
Yeah, it wasn't all bad. Like on the whole, I would give him like a B as far as coaches go. At least for the Flyers. Like, what would you give Alain Vigneault? C- by the time he was gone. D+. How about Hackstall? F. Like, in terms of Flyers coaches, he's solidly in like B- B territory, I think.
It's hard to grade coaches when your goal isn't the playoffs. Like unless you're trying to absolutely win, like Laviolette in New York this season, you can grade him. Like these coaches that are disappointing. Like, but in a rebuild, like I feel like Tortorella, yeah, it's good to have him establish the culture. Like he helped build a foundation. He helped, after the locker room was toxic with Hayes and Provorov and all those guys. Like he helped build that culture, build that leadership, and you can disagree with that philosophy from the front office, but he did it well, and he was probably the guy to come in and do that. Where maybe it would have been nicer to have him a few years down the road when this team can actually compete and actually kind of, when you're getting that extra juice out of the players, it's putting you from the playoff bubble to maybe winning a round, not a top 5 pick to a top 10 pick, like something like that.
I think it's important to highlight that we would not even be having this conversation if Chuck Fletcher hadn't hired John Tortorella. He was the first in the organization to say, this isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't allowed to say rebuild, but he said everything he could to be like, this isn't working and it's going to take some time to get it right. He was the first one to say that without saying it. Meanwhile, we were getting aggressive retool and yeah, we're 5 points out of the playoffs. We'll see. Just disaster. So we wouldn't even be a rebuilding team, or at least not in this iteration, if it hadn't been for Torts in the first place. And the players that he did coach, even the ones he didn't get along with, like if it was Cam York and him that eventually ended his coaching tenure, but York is a better defenseman now than he was a couple of years ago. And some will say, oh, he would have developed that way anyway. I'm not so sure.
And
I think there's a lot of
you
benefit
can give
there.
credit
Travis
to Bradshaw there too. Like
sure.
people are like, oh, it's Bradshaw, but it is Tortorella. It is Tortorella. What was the top dog there? So he definitely deserves credit there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the forwards too, like TK, he's a star. Maybe not like a top 10 player in the league, but he's certainly in like the top 25 conversation.
Mm-hmm.
He's really good. Blossomed under Tortorella because he was given opportunities that he hadn't been given before, like the penalty kill, which we've missed this year, the power kill. I hope TK can score some power kill goals next season. Those were fun. And then young guys, Tyson Forrester, Bobby Brink looks like a legit forechecking player for a guy his size. He won't be a fourth liner. He's not physical enough for that, but he looks like he's a good offensive zone player and at least not going to kill you in the defensive zone. Noah Cates, he's a center. He's an NHL center who looks like he might be a lot better than we thought. I know he's on the older side, but still. Jamie Drysdale, in just a year, has completely turned his game around. And you mentioned Bradshaw. He gets a lot of credit. But you can't just discount what Torts has done for the structure of this team.
You can't. And Drysdale, I think, is a great point there because he compared Drysdale to Werenski when they were both in Columbus. And Werenski now is a Norris Trophy candidate. Like he's helping Columbus, kind of make a playoff push. I don't know if they'll actually make the playoffs, but Werenski is looking like a top flight defenseman. And right now, Drysdale is as well. And yeah, Tortorella does deserve credit for, having him as that rover, being able to get that structure into his game where he's not just this offense only guy. He's offense focused, but he can still hold his own defensively and in transition.
How about that goal in the game? Who were they playing?
Last night, the cleanup
was
goal?
Nashville, right? Yeah, where he was just in front of the net and bopped it home.
Mm-hmm.
That is a confident player who's surfed up, a confident defenseman who has surfed up into the offensive zone to clean up the trash. I don't think he was doing that too much earlier in the year, and now we're starting to see him be like, "Oh, I got this," and he'll be there.
Yeah, and you can attribute that to Tortorella being gone, but it's also he's been a different player since that Gauthier game. I feel like since January, I think it was January 6th or whatever, January 7th, like that for 2.5 months, almost 3 months now. He's been a completely different, confident player, and that's what you said, for the past year now. It's like, all right, give him time here in a good system to develop, where it's not Anaheim that's rushing him and pulling him around, not signing him to the contract and whatnot. So give him time here. He's good friends with Cam York. They're on a pair now together. I do like that. So yeah, Drysdale, I feel like is going to end up being. He might not be a better player than Cutter Gauthier because Gauthier is starting to put up some goals in garbage time for Anaheim, but defenseman, I feel like, is a much more important position to have.
And it takes time. Like Chris Pronger even is like, yeah, defensemen take more time. That's just kind of how it is. He's like, unless you're me, but like, sometimes it just takes longer. Like you got to be patient with them. So, good for that. What other like pros do we have about Torts? Like, he was fun. He was fun to watch.
He put the Flyers back on the map. Like he was a part of putting the Flyers back on the map and not being irrelevant in this city or, you know, across the country for hockey fans. Like, it's like, all right, they have Tortorella there. They're going to be a storyline to watch. It's not AV letting the locker room get completely out of hand, or Hackstall doing whatever he was doing, or any of these, you know, coaches since Laviolette. The Flyers hadn't really had a big presence there behind the bench. So yeah, and I feel like a big one is he was the first one that was like, all right, let's be real. This is a rebuild. We have to tear this down. Not completely, but we have to get these pieces out. We have to get better pieces in, and we have to be competitive, because we say time and time again, we see these teams, Buffalo, Detroit, Ottawa's getting there now, but it took a big free agency signing.
Yeah.
Edmonton is there now, but it took a decade of high picks. Like
mediocrity. You
see all these teams that are tanking, that are trying to lose for higher draft picks, and that rarely results in winning. Like that rarely results in a positive outcome. So Tortorella getting in here, getting that culture, letting these young players, weeding out the players that don't belong, like Morgan Frost, Joel Farabee. Like they didn't get along with Torts. Torts didn't get along with them, and they're gone now, and they're not playing much better. They might be playing worse. Haven't looked at their numbers, and you know, I feel like Cam York is going to be better for you know, that whole thing with Tortorella. I'm not sure if you saw today, people are saying like, oh, York said like, oh, I'm going to be here longer than you. And I feel like it's just people making shit up, and that's thing.
Yeah.
Those are things you can be like, all right, well, yeah, that's something you would imagine him to say. But yeah, I mean, that's good to hear if York did say that, because he's an RFA, and that means he wants to stay here, and that's what he's saying outwardly. He's saying the right things, but hopefully he is feeling that as well. And I feel like he can really grow with Drysdale. Those two guys are both California boys. I mean, York's a more defensive guy. Drysdale's offensive. I feel like that's a good pairing there, and that they've been together for the past 3 games.
Yeah, there's some potential there. What's your favorite Torts moment?
Favorite Torts moment. I don't know. I feel like the Lightning game where he doesn't leave the bench has to be up there. What was that game this year where he parted the Red Sea? Was that the Ducks game where he won after he was like standing up on the bench and going after him?
After the ref, because they made a bad call, and he's like, "Hey, whoa, wait, yeah." That was good. I also really enjoyed the game in Columbus, I think it was, where he showed up looking like shit, and everyone was like, "What the hell happened?" And he says, "Oh, I got kicked in the face by my horse." Like, that was just a wild moment. It was like, what happened to this guy? Oh, I got kicked in the face by a horse. That was great. What else? I feel like I'm forgetting one big one.
He's called out different media members at times.
I'm not talking to you. Yeah,
that's been enjoyable. Saying he doesn't know Cutter Gauthier from a hole in the wall, that was good. I liked his comments. You know, looking back on him after the Cutter Gauthier this game this year, he's like, I want to hear that intensity in the building for a playoff game, not for this bullshit. Like, yeah, absolutely. Like, he is saying it like most Flyers fans want to say it. They're like, yeah, this is great. This is cool having this atmosphere, but it's a game in the middle of January. That means nothing. We want that. Yeah. We want that now. It's 70 degrees outside. We're going to the Farg. We want to hear that now going into the playoffs, and instead of it being, you know, some fans hoping they lose because they're playing a team around them in the standings. Like, so I feel like he's a great coach for Philadelphia. It was just not the right time, which, you know, that's something that seems to always happen with Philadelphia, getting the wrong player or right player at the wrong time. But it wasn't necessarily the wrong time. It was just, you know, not the perfect time. It was a good time. Yeah. They needed someone in there to kind of lead the charge.
A strong hand. They needed a strong hand in that room to direct things, because it was clear there was no direction. And it wasn't just it wasn't just in the locker room, it was throughout the organization. There was no direction.
Mm-hmm.
He came in and started to give it to the locker room. And once the outside world realized what a dire situation it was in the Flyers locker room, Spectacor was forced to make some changes higher up in the organization. As far as sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask if anything that Briere said about the press conference, is anything there that really stood out to you? I know he said, like, someone asked him about last year with the Couturier situation, and like Briere says, yeah, things happen, like there were scars happen, like we're all human, like, and apparently what I read of the transcript and what I read people writing about it was like, I forget which writer it was, like the disconnect between Tortorella and Briere was always there. And like Tortorella kind of pushed Briere and went back and forth. So it makes me wonder, like, I like this for Briere, first of all, but it makes me wonder if like he needed Tortorella to go over the top so then he could be like, all right, you're done. Because that's what it seemed like. He was like, all right, this really picked up in the past few days since those Tuesday comments. So whatever York did, whoever those comments were taken after the game about how he didn't want to coach here, I feel like this is Briere putting his balls on the table and be like, here we go, you're done.
I gotta say, I'm surprised the Flyers acted as quickly and decisively as they did. Mm-hmm. You don't see, especially for the Flyers, they haven't acted quickly when things are clearly not going well. You look at the AV situation. Chuck Fletcher stuck with AV and not the players, and they just stunk. Yeah. You got a whole year of Mike Yeo out of that. Then it was clear that the mix of players wasn't working, but you tried to just pretend it was fine. Like it was nice. It was refreshing to see a front office member of the Philadelphia Flyers come out and say, this has been building for a while, but it just reached a point where we had to put a stop to it. And Cam York sat on the bench dressed for an entire game without a stick, because Briere and Jonesy were like, yo, you stepped out of line, you're not playing, and that's our decision. That's not Shaw. And you could see on York's face, he didn't look that pissed off about it. He just kind of was like, well, I just got to get through this. I'll go have a beer with the boys after the game, and it'll be fine. Like it's good. This is just a day at the job.
Like, I'm sure a lot of guys in the locker room loved York for whatever he said, whatever he did, because there's guys in there that wouldn't say that. Like Michkov probably would say certain things, but if York crossed the line, like that's him stepping up for his teammates. Like he's seen Brink get yelled at, he's seen Michkov get yelled at, he's seen these guys come in, just get torn to shreds, and apparently it may have turned personal with him, whatever. But like it just got to the point where Cam York was just blew up at him, and that's. You love seeing that. Hopefully that does translate to play on the ice, because York, I feel like, has been a bit disappointing. He's the type of defenseman, though, that if you don't notice him, it's good. Like, people just expected more points because he was so offensive.
He was built that way. He was sold to us that way, and people are still clinging to that. And I'm like, we talked about this a year ago. It's time to change our perception of what Cam York is meant to be. Although I do hope he scores a little more than this. This is, he's trying. He's been firing at the net the past few games, but it just, he's rusty, I guess. He's rusty at the offense. And he was injured this year, right? He missed like almost a month back in like October,
November.
He missed some
time. He missed some time. Yeah.
So, we'll see. I don't know what kind of contract he's going to sign this summer. Probably a bridge deal, but could be surprised.
Yeah, the offseason is going to be interesting for all the players, with the cap situation going up and not knowing how high it's going. So players, I think, are going to want more short-term contracts this summer.
Yeah, or more money, like Jacob Chikrin signing that $9 million a year contract with the Caps, and everybody being like, what the hell is that? But in 3 years' time, that's going to be just an average contract. Yep. Yeah. So it's we will have to recalibrate our sense of the cap over the next, especially this summer, because there's going to be some big numbers thrown around, and we're going to be like, what the hell? Remember when people thought that Travis Konechny's contract was a bloated overpayment, and now it's just
people still think that. People still think that, Joe.
They're wrong, but it's going to be at the worst. It's going to be average. So
yeah, it's fine contract. Another thing Briere said was that like he feels like they're entering a new phase of the rebuild now.
Oh yeah,
which I love that. Like he's like, all right, we've traded pretty much the guys we want to trade. We traded Frost, we traded Farabee, didn't want to trade Lawton, but we knew it was better for our future. Maybe they started conversations on Paling and Zamula from the deadline. Conversations on Risto. They're like, all right, there's not many more pieces that we want to trade for future assets. So I'm hoping that next phase is using those assets to go get something, to go get a player, to go trade up in the draft, to do what they have to do. Because I'm sick of hearing fans saying, oh, why are they getting all these draft picks? You don't need all these draft picks. But draft picks are the only really currency in trading. They have a defined value for GMs. They're like, all right, this is worth this. That's the closest thing they have to any sort of like cash or something. Like, all right, this is a future piece that I can trade you to get a better player. And hearing Friedman say this week, like, oh, the Flyers are going to be active in offer sheets. And I know Wyatt Johnson's off the table now, but you got Marco Rossi out there, Maverick Bourque. You have some defensemen if they want to take a swing at someone like that. So I really do think that this offseason, it's going to be even bigger than we thought now that Tortorella's gone.
I'm still wary about offer sheets right now just because I don't have the highest of expectations for the Flyers next year. And those picks that they give up, a 2026 unprotected first round pick could be way too much. Way too much. So
I've seen a lot of that on social media, let's say not want to give up unprotected. So
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it yet. Maybe next summer. I mean, we could also just be talking about a lower end offer sheet. Like the Broberg and Holloway offer sheets ended up being like a second, a third, and a fourth. Fine. Go for that. But if you're really trying to pry a player away and they are that level of talent and it costs you a first round pick to do it, I'd rather just trade a top 10 protected or something like this.
Yeah.
It's too risky to go like big fish hunting. But you could go for a still big but not quite as expensive fish.
Yeah. I mean,
we're going for salmon, not tuna.
Whatever fish analogy you want.
Whatever fish analogy you want.
Looking at the offer sheet tracker, anything over 4.5 million is a first round pick and a third round pick. Anything up to 4.5 is a second round pick. Yeah. And then 1 to 2 million is a third round pick. But I kind of hope and feel like the Flyers are letting this leak out as kind of like a threat to teams. Like, hey, to use that as some sort of leverage in the offseason when it comes to trades. Because we know the Wild don't necessarily want to keep Rossi. We know the Stars have a lot of money tied up now. They have Rantanen in there. They locked up Johnston. Maybe the Flyers be like, all right, what do you want for Bourque? Like, we'll give you similar to what you would get if we sign that offer sheet, but you can actually pick the player what you want instead of a pick. Like, and they can negotiate that. Like, so I feel like I kind of hope it's a negotiating tactic from the Flyers. And it's also like, you look at the Flyers, you look at Comcast owning them, and like the Flyers want to take that next step, and offer sheets are definitely underutilized. So Briere coming in, Keith Jones having a relationship with everyone, I feel like is something that is undervalued for the fan base.
I still look at next year as a bridge year. I'm not willing to put so many chips in. I think it's better to take a patient approach. Briere has said many times, this is a patient rebuild. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'm not that high on Maverick Bourque. If he's cheap, I'll take him, but I don't know. Just don't overdo it. If you make all of your first round selections this year, you've got a really stocked cupboard. That means this is going to take a few more years. And everybody's like, well, Michkov's here. You have to speed it up. You have to do it now. You have to be competitive now. And I'm like, Michkov is sick. He's still just 20 years old. Let's we can't just say, oh, he's the superstar that's going to carry us to a Stanley Cup next year. Let's give it another couple summers.
Yeah,
something better might come along.
Yeah, ultimately, realistically, the Flyers shouldn't do too much this offseason, and I'm not saying that they should be doing these things, but as fans, as analysts or podcasters, whatever you want to call it, it's good to be like, all right, this is what they could do. This is best case scenario. If this falls into their lap, if this is something that they think lines up with their rebuild, if with their vision, if Rossi is a guy they've targeted and he's available, go get him. If Noah Dobson, if Keandre Miller or someone like that,
Evan Bouchard,
Evan Bouchard, you're like, all right, I'll trade Risto, use Risto's money plus a little more to go get a defenseman like that. I could see the Flyers doing that, but at the same time, like you said, it's a rebuild. Next year is going to be another tough, shitty year. It really is. The Flyers are going to be probably in a similar spot, maybe making a push towards the playoffs. They don't really have too many obvious trade chips, but next year is another rebuild year. The veterans aren't going to like that. Konechny is in his latter prime years. Couturier is looking a lot better now in these past few games. I'm not sure if he's just looking lighter. Sanheim's 28, he's getting up there too. These guys want the team to go for it. And Briere said in his press conference, we didn't ask the players about this, but we're very close to the room, so they know what's going on. And I imagine their players executives or whatever you want to call them. I feel like that's something that they're going to do right by their players, as we say time and time again.
Yeah. Also, Sanheim's 29. His birthday was last week.
Oh, I'm looking on the Hockey Reference roster page. It was last week. They were singing happy birthday to him in the locker room, wasn't it? Was it Saturday?
Yep. Yeah, I think it was Saturday. He got the belt that day, didn't he? Or did they just sing happy birthday?
I don't know.
I don't remember. Yeah, I think it's just going to take longer than people expect, because the prospects, we talk about them, Barkey, Bong, they're turning pro next year. That doesn't mean they're going to be in the NHL. They might not hit the NHL until they're 22, 23. And then they're going to need a year, maybe, to acclimate. This is going to take time. It's going to take 2 or 3 years. You can't rush this. New York Rangers are a team that rushed it. It's not working out too good for them. The LA Kings, they kind of rushed it, but they're fine. They're good, but I don't feel like they're gonna. Actually, this year they might get past Edmonton. Their goaltending is so bad. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. It's just patience, people. Patience.
Yeah, those are the teams that you're like, all right, they're good. They're good regular season teams. Maybe Shesterkin can get hot. Maybe the Kings can get hot, but they're not up there with the Floridas, with the Vegas, with Colorado, Carolina. These teams that have the top end talent and have the depth to support that. They have the depth scoring. They have those depth prospects that the Flyers hopefully have now as well, and are going to be able to get more in the coming years. So you want to be that Tampa Bay. You want to be the team that, okay, Michkov is Kucherov. You get maybe someone to be like Luchenko can be point, you get a top defenseman. You can do something like that. You don't want to be these teams that are I know growing up, the Flyers were constantly in it. And we talked about this, being a casual fan, all right, they're going into the playoffs, are they hot? Are they playing right well at the right time? But they were never really true threats to go all the way. And that's what you want. I see people shitting on Carolina for what they do, but they are constantly one of the top 5 cup favorites every year for the past few years now, and every year moving forward. You want to be those teams that are all right. Let's go up there. Let's be the top teams, and that starts with Matvei Michkov. And there's been a lot of conversation about him over these past few days. If John Tortorella was holding Matvei Michkov back, of course, he's been playing a lot more these past few games. I think 20 plus minutes against Montreal, 1959 against Buffalo, 1701 last night against Nashville, but multiple points in all 3 of those games. Has a 6-game point streak now, and it is easy to say, look at that, be like, all right, yeah, look at how well he would have done without Tortorella. But I think you also have to factor in the structure that Tortorella did put in there. And also, Michkov is just a streaky player. Like, we saw this out of the Four Nations break. We saw this, early December. He had that streak to start the year. So I think the bigger question is if the Flyers should have stuck along that plan of giving Michkov, healthy scratches for those development days and be like, all right, if they had kept him fresh, like, what would he be at right now?
I don't know, man. He just is a streaky 20-year-old gold scorer. Why is everybody saying it's Torts' fault that he's hot? Look at the 3 games before he went off, or before Torts was fired. He had like 6 points in those games or something, right? 5 points?
He had 4 points in those 3 games.
4 points. Yeah, I'm close enough. But it just, I don't think so. And I think that long term, whatever Torts instilled in Michkov is going to benefit him. I don't think he's been made a worse player by Tortorella's coaching. And, maybe if he's trying to cherry pick and blow the zone early, he'll think twice and be like, wait, Torts, I can't do that. No, it's a bad idea.
He has
just that little voice.
Yeah, the Torch devil on his shoulder. He's like, no, I can't do that.
You can't do that.
Yeah, you are seeing him do that in these past 3 games. But I think that's also a good thing, because then the other team has to be aware of that. Like, it's in football, like, it's a receiver that can, spread the defense out, that can go deep. And like, you have, so that defenseman is constantly being worried about, okay, where's Michkov? Like, I don't want to be on a highlight reel of him getting around me. So then that defenseman won't pinch up as much. So it impacts on everything there. And yeah, you could say, all right, Michkov's going to cherry pick. You don't want to see that. But I mean, it's pretty exciting to see him going on breakaways, him going on 2-on-1s with Konechny, like, and that's what he's here for. He's here to score. So I understand the people that are saying in the short term, like, oh, Michkov now has 58 points. He has 5 more than Celebrini, 1 behind Hudson. Like, imagine if he had this longer leash all season long. But at the same time, like you said, this is gonna, help him out in the long run, having Tortorella dealing with a coach like that in his rookie year and still putting up these numbers. It's incredible. I was going back and looking at like Flyers single seasons of 60 plus points, because he's at 58. He's gonna get to 60. In the past 15 years, it's like Giroux, Voracek, Couturier got there. I think probably Simmons got there. Maybe a Braden Shen year, a Shane Gostisbehere year, but like, it's been, you can count them almost on one hand, like maybe on 2 hands, like how many Flyers players have had as many points as Michkov has in his rookie year since, probably the past 15 years. So it's incredible watching him play. And like,
I just looked it up. He has tied Travis Konechny for goals this year. Yeah, this year. They both have 24.
I mean,
that's crazy.
Yeah, I really do wish he like, I do wish we could have seen him with a coach that was like, all right, we're going to put you with Konechny all year long. We're putting our top 3 players together. Let's see how you do. Grow with it, grow through the pains. And
wasn't that a Konechny issue though, that he was like, I don't like playing the left side?
I think it was a Konechny issue, but I don't know how real that was. Like, because you don't want to come out and be like, oh, yeah, Michkov doesn't want to play this side or whatever, or
okay.
like Michkov.
Here's part of it. Travis Konechny was red fucking hot for most of the season.
Yeah,
on the right wing. So maybe the thought process was like, let's keep him on that side because he's just playing so well. Why mess up what's working? Yeah. But then TK got ice cold, and it's like, Konechny, TK, buddy, this ain't working. We're moving you to the left so you can play with Michkov to try and get you going again. So maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, their connection is so sweet to watch on this. But if they like have a rush going, or if they're both circling around the offensive zone, it's a treat to watch those two go together. And Couturier is there. His body's not there, but his mind's still working fast. So hopefully, I want to see that with Luchenko next year. But I don't mind seeing Couturier with those 2 wingers kind of help him out offensively, because he can be a third defenseman for all I care if you have those 2 guys on the wing.
I'd still put them together next season. I want to see Jet Luchenko with Owen Tippett. And
Owen Tippett has been incredible these past few games. I mean, getting Jacob Pelletier that first goal there, but yeah. So
that line, Pellets, Luchenko, Tippett would go so hard. That line would rule. I mean, that would be a lot of fun.
They have it with Ryan Poehling now, who's been the Flyers' best center for quite some time. The past few weeks, he's been incredible.
He got another one yesterday. No,
yesterday. The great setup by Michkov to connecting, and then Poehling was just right there in front, put it in. So
tic-tac-toe, baby.
Yeah, I think with Tortorella and Michkov to tie this up here, like, yeah, you look at his numbers this year, you're like, all right, he would have had more points if Tortorella wasn't the coach the whole time. He'd probably be more in the Calder Trophy conversation because it is a two-man race between Hudson and Celebrini. Maybe if Michkov keeps this multi-point streak going, he can actually get in the conversation. He is third, but it's a distant third right now. But so
he's third. He's on a 3-game multi-point streak, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
He's third in the betting odds. I'm saying not in any sort of like points or whatnot. Like, and I looked it up before this weekend. His points per 60 this season at 5-on-5 has been incredible. It's it's like top 50 in the league. If
they
not
showed
higher.
You might have been at the game. It wasn't the Preds game.
The even strength point leaders, right? That was
since the Four Nations break, I think it was.
Mm-hmm,
and he was leading the league. Like, I think the only person with more 5-on-5 points since Four Nations was Sidney Crosby. So
yeah, it was like Crosby. It was like the Capitals' top guys, and like I think maybe one of the Oilers. Like I was, yeah.
And I don't know. That seems like pretty good company to be in as a rookie.
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, Michkov 5-on-5 this year. Total points per 60 is 2.45. I'm seeing where that ranks among players with 900 minutes is 18th. Some guy called Connor McDavid is right ahead of him at 2.47. Michkov is at 2.45 points per 60. Like that is incredible. Imagine if the Flyers had a power play too. Like, imagine the real question is Rocky Thompson holding Matvei Michkov back, because that would have been crazy if like they could actually have not even a league average power play, just like a bottom third power play, not bottom of the barrel power play.
Power play's been red hot this week though. Since Torts got fired, they got a couple of them. I was listening to the PHLY the other day, and Charlie O'Connor, a friend of the pod, pointed out Owen Tippett. Do you know how many power play goals Owen Tippett has this year?
Is it 0?
Unless he didn't get one last night, right? I'm pretty sure it's 0.
He's rarely on that top unit though.
Yeah, it is 0. But his even strength goals, 19. You know how many even strength goals he had in 22-23? 19. You know how many he had last season? 23. His even strength production is pretty much in line with like his past 2 seasons. But the 0 power play goals is crazy.
Owen Tippett, 1.16 goals per 60 at 5-on-5 is 21st among NHL forwards with 900 minutes played.
It's almost like we have good players on this team. They are not a talentless bunch of hacks. This is not the Chicago Blackhawks.
They're not talentless, no, but they definitely hurt their depth at the deadline, trading away Lawton. Hathaway came back last night. That was good to see, but missing Hathaway, missing Ristolainen. But yeah, tip it up there ahead of guys like Duchesne, Hischier, Hyman, Panarin, Kucherov, Point, Brian Rust, Tavares, Eichel, like Adrian Kempe. Just get me a power play. Get me a power play coach that can do something. Like it's that like the triangle, you can only pick 2.
You can only pick 2.
It's goaltending, 5-on-5, and special teams. And the Flyers can only pick 1. They can pick 1 in any given game. And most good teams can pick 2, and then the elite teams have 3. So they're working towards that.
Just to throw this on to the pros of the Tortorella era, the Flyers were one of the best 5-on-5 expected goals team in the league 2 years running. Like, that there's no denying that they were a good team from an underlying statistical standpoint. They just couldn't finish on any of those expected chances they were generating. That was their biggest problem, and also the goaltending. But they weren't a bad team. They played well, and hopefully they can maintain that process and then add some actual goal scoring punch on top of it. And it looks like maybe they could do it. Yesterday's game was kind of a slog, but
yeah,
still
it was. But
Fedotov, nice game.
Yeah, Fedotov always looks weird.
Bajiggity.
Yeah, but Flyers this year, 7th best expected goals 4% at 5-on-5. But the Corsi for the raw shot total numbers is 11th worst. Scoring chances 4% is 13th worst. So I don't know. Is it just high danger chances that you're getting? Yeah, high danger chances, 5th best. So
yeah,
that's
good.
It's good, but it is the skill issue finishing and the skill issue in their own net. Where that's the big thing. They have to figure out goaltending. If they do an offer sheet this summer, they have to get a goalie. You can't go in with Ersson and Fedotov, and you can't go in with Ersson as the 1A. You have to go get someone, maybe a Jake Allen to split starts with Ersson. Like you have to do something there to actually improve your team if you offer sheet and are giving up an unprotected first round pick.
If you are making that big of an offer sheet, you can't just let the goaltending ride. That's critical.
I think you need a goalie anyway. And if you guys haven't listened to the Martitas podcast from last week, go back and listen to that. He's good talk on goaltending there. But I feel like you have to go get I like Alex Lyon out there, Jake Allen's out there. Dan
Why not offer sheet a goalie?
Offer sheet Lucas Dostal from the Ducks. Bring him over. Like,
is Dustin Wolf eligible?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so yet. But yeah, bring in a veteran to split time with Ersson, offer sheet a center, and maybe we make the playoffs next year. That's best case scenario for fan enjoyment. Most realistic is not a lot of noise.
Yeah, I'm not even hoping for playoffs next year. I have no expectations of that. Frankly, I would be perfectly happy if they get another top 10 pick next season. After that, in the 26-27 season, then we could start having problems. But if they, summer 2026, are a top 10 drafting team, fine by me.
It is tough, though, because I know you said, like, oh, Michkov's here, you can't waste his years. But Michkov is here on an entry-level deal for 2 more years. Like, you want to be able to take advantage of that. I don't mind overpaying guys on short-term deals in the next year or two to bring them in and help out Michkov, help out these guys, instead of having Rodrigo Abels on the 4th line, having Nick Deslauriers playing.
But he's not playing with those guys.
No, I know, but it's just the trickle down. Like, go get, like, I don't want Sam Bennett, but like Matt Duchene, maybe someone like that, or like go trade for someone that's on a bad contract and has 2 years left. Like, that's what they need to do. So Michkov's making less than $1 million. Go out and get someone that's being overpaid a bit, and then you can kind of be like, all right, combine them two, and they're making what they should be.
But that doesn't matter because Michkov is here 2 years earlier than we were expecting him to be here. You can't suddenly pivot that hard, because if Michkov was arriving here at 21, that's a different player than what we've got now.
But do you think the Flyers have been? What do you think their expectations were for Michkov this season?
I think he surpassed them entirely.
Exactly. So you don't have to completely pivot, but you can be like, all right, let's go a little bit more here. Let's go out and get a center that we can actually evaluate these wingers with, and also bring those wingers' value higher if we do want to trade them.
I guess if they overpay and overterm a guy for that, I'm not on board with it.
I'm worried about the term. I'm worried about the term. I am fine overpaying by $2 million for a short-term deal.
If they want to pay John Tavares $13 million a year for 2 years, fine. But
I was just about to say, John Tavares is probably John Tavares. I don't think Brad Marchand will come here, but that would be
not a center.
Fun. That would be extreme. No, I know, not a center. I still want Claude Giroux. I don't know if he would play center.
Not a center.
I hope he would play center, but I don't know if he'd come back. Duchene is the center. Sam Bennett's not going to come here, but yeah. So I guess then it is the more trade route where you find someone on a reasonable-ish deal for a few more years from a team that needs to clear some cap.
I'm not worried. I'm not worried. If next year is just another bridge year where we get basically good underlying process,
same
but
thing,
the
yeah.
goaltending torpedoes them, but the skaters genuinely improve.
Yeah.
Okay. As long as there's improvement elsewhere on the ice. I don't really care about the record as long as they're playing better. I look to the San Jose Sharks. They suck. But if you watch them,
they're fun. They're fun.
They play well. They're not going out every night and dogging it in a way that the Blackhawks do. And the players seem to be like positive energy. The vibes are good. And I know Flyers fans are going to hate to hear this. The veteran presence of a guy like Tyler Toffoli has been crucial. Like when him, Will Smith, and Macklin Celebrini had a sleepover in a hotel room because all of them scored on his birthday or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And they were like, "Yeah, if you score, you got to sleep over with us tonight." And he did it. Like the vibes are so important. Even if you're losing, you got to be positive, and the Flyers have done that so well. Other teams have not. So I'm fine if the vibes of the players are good, even if they're losing, I can live with it. And I think that's kind of been a change now because Torts, what coach hates to lose more than John Tortorella? You know? So
yeah.
All of that losing probably just grated on him until it came out and he started directing that anger and frustration on the players, you know? So if they can just keep the vibes good and still play fun and improve, I'm not as fussed.
That Toffoli angle is what I'm going for more when I say Giroux should come back. Like he's not going to come in and be a top 6 center. He's a guy that can come in, be the team dad. Like imagine him and like Bobby Brink and Jacob Pelletier all hanging out. Like that would be the fun stuff. Like he's not coming in and solving the center issue, but yeah, you want to see improvement next year. You want to see another good year for Michkov. I don't want regression. If he puts up the same amount of numbers, great. The league is kind of learning what he can do. They're going to the book on him. You want to see Jet Luchenko have a great rookie year. You want to see maybe Bobby Brink take another step forward. Tyson Forster keep that going. And Owen Tippett. We need to see a big bounce back year from Owen Tippett. We really do. And we just went over the 5x5 numbers, 5-on-5 numbers. They're great, but like I feel
we
like
need a power play.
And also visually, you've been able to notice Tippett less. So you want to see him take a step forward, Forster, Brink, figure out what Pelletier is, maybe figure out what Lixell is if they're bringing him back. Like figure out who's going to be the pieces that you can go through this next phase with.
And I'm content to just kind of tweak, but otherwise let it ride. No need to make just monumental changes.
Yeah. Kind of on that note, I want to talk about this whole tanking situation where like and I do this myself, but like any team that starts losing and like you're looking at their draft, like all right, they're tanking, let's go Flyers tank. All right, the Flyers aren't tanking. They have not been tanking. Like if they were tanking, they would have traded Ristolainen, they would have traded Zamula and Paling for whatever they could have got. They would have traded different guys. They would dress Nick Delorier. They wouldn't play their best guys. Like they would all right, bring up Jet Luchenko, let's see what they can do, let them just play whatever in the NHL. This is their whole thing, is that they're not tanking. It's a rebuild. They're focusing on the future. They're going to make hockey moves that make sense for them for the future, not for right now. So they're not going to go out and if they can go out and get a roster player like Pelletier, great. But if they're going to go out and get a 3rd, 4th round pick for Kuzmenko, they'll do that. If they're going to get a prospect and a 1st for Lawton, they'll do that. Like it's not tanking. This is not Sam Hinkie. This is not some huge plan to tank. It's a bad hockey team. They have skill, but it's a bad team when you take away so many pieces. And that's what it is.
The same.
They're trying to win, which makes the losing streak so much more depressing. Is that they're trying to win, and you see that. So that they're not tanking. Like the Sharks are tanking. Blackhawks absolutely tanking.
Blackhawks, yes, I will agree with that.
The Sharks are tanking.
I'm a little more skeptical of. Like, you look at the moves they've made. They traded Brent Burns, who's 38, for future considerations. They needed the cap space. Like, they needed the contract off the books. so they gave him away. Erik Karlsson coming off a Norris season. His value would never be higher at age, 32? That was the time to trade him. Tomas Hertl to the Vegas Golden Knights. They flipped that package for Yaroslav Askarov, their goalie of the future.
Yeah.
Timo Meier, that's the one you could be like, he was kind of on the younger side, but maybe they just weren't sold on him, and they managed to get an absolute haul for him from New Jersey. They didn't do what the Blackhawks did, which is trade a 25-year-old Alex DeBrincat. They didn't trade a 23-year-old Kirby Dott. Like, that's tanking. Taking these like 25 and under guys who have a lot of promise and potential and jettisoning them just for draft picks. San Jose, they traded older guys at their peak value, except for Brent Burns, but whatever. And they flipped a lot of those assets into players to help them now. You could argue that this trade deadline, when they traded, was it Zetterlund, Fabian Zetterlund, I think.
Oh yeah, they traded Zetterlund, and they traded Wallman too. Yeah.
Well, Wallman makes sense. That was an expiring contract, but the Zetterlund trade was weird. I'm not so sold on that one, but they have a lot of young wingers coming up through the ranks, so I can understand it from that perspective as well. But I don't think they're blatantly stripping it to the studs and tanking in the way that the Blackhawks did. They just had an aging roster from a long era of competitiveness. They saw the writing on the wall, and then they traded these guys at their peak value and got good assets for it. That's not tanking. That's just being a good approaching the rebuild properly. That's what you're supposed to do.
That's good points by you. It's rare for a hockey team to like actually tank unless it's a McDavid draft, unless it's a Crosby draft, like unless there's a generational player that is there. Like teams won't tank. Like they just won't. It's hockey players just don't do that. Like it's just. But yeah, so that's why like that's kind of on my nerves recently. Like all right, the Flyers are tanking. What like go the tank? It's like, all right, no, it's they're trying to win. It's just they're at this phase of the rebuild where they're not good enough. They're good enough to beat teams around them in the standings, like the Sabres, like the Predators. But we saw what happened against Toronto. We saw what happened, against Dallas. They were pushing and still lost. Like that separates the Flyers from even the mediocre teams in the league.
Yeah, exactly. No, I just the Blackhawks are the only team I've seen that are actually truly tanking in my mind. But anyway, shall we just do our game previews for the
let's do our game previews. But yeah,
Flyers, is there just one?
Flyers are off now until Saturday. They are at Montreal on Saturday, and then they are at the Rangers the following Wednesday. So we just got that Montreal game to predict here.
All right. Lame Hudson. I don't know. Maybe it's in Montreal.
It's in Montreal.
Mais oui, je parle français aussi. I don't know. I think they might lose this one 5-3.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be a high-scoring game. The Canadiens have been very up and down recently, making a playoff push, kind of. I think
they beat Florida.
They beat Florida. They have Florida's number this year, so for some reason,
just like we did last season.
Yeah. Flyers beat them 6-4. Very open hockey. So yeah, I think 5-3 is a good guess. I'll guess 5-4 Habs in overtime to make the fans upset a little bit.
The worst outcome possible.
Yes, exactly. Michkov a few goals though, so that'd be perfect.
Hat trick, finally.
Oh, fucking finally, please. It was infuriating that he not able to finish off. But good to see him, make light of it after the game on Monday night. You can read
great sense of humor
on BroadStreetHockey.com there. But yeah, speaking of tanking, let's do our tankathon. Run.
Hell yes.
And present the screen here. Tankathon. Flyers down to the 7th best odds, which is not too surprising given how
Boston
the strength of schedule looks and how just dog shit, like I said, Boston is. Boston
8 games.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was an 8-game losing streak. That's crazy.
Boston has been outscored 38-14 during the last 8 games there. That's
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so Boston might fall. Boston might stay down there, but I think like 7 is where the Flyers are going to be 7 or higher. Like Pittsburgh, I feel like is going to be enough to stay ahead of the Flyers, but 7, 8, I feel like there's still enough of a top tier there for them.
Yeah, they're staying in the top 10. I have no doubt about that.
Oh yeah, easily top 10. Yeah. All right, let's run this thing here. It's going.
It is going.
Oh, San Jose, Pittsburgh up to 2. So the Flyers then drop down to 8.
That's so gross.
Yeah, haven't looked at Edmonton's at 22 right now. Colorado's 26. Edmonton's not looking great for the playoffs. With I know Draisaitl's back, but McDavid's hurt, Skinner's hurt. Avs are looking real good though. Avs are looking tough with
fierce
with Blackwood and with Natchez there.
And Brock Nelson,
Charlie Coyle. They got a bunch of
Eric Johnson,
a bunch of good depth. Yeah, Eric Johnson was the key for them.
Eric Johnson was the key. Playoff good luck charm. He's the new Pat Maroon.
Mock draft here. Flyers stay at 7. They're giving them Victor Eklund, which I guess that's fine. I guess looking at the top 7: Schaefer, Misa, Martone, Hagens, Frondell, Desnoyers, Eklund, McQueen. I guess that's probably worst case scenario because I feel like all those top 6 I would prefer over Eklund.
Yep, me too.
Yeah.
Jake O'Brien would be okay. He's rising up the ranks. I
was gonna say, do you think the Flyers could trade down if they have 7? If they trade down, be like, all right, well, we can probably get O'Brien at like 10.
I don't think you risk that because the thing is, Jake O'Brien is one of those players that hockey men are gonna love. So like he might go higher than we expect.
Yeah, he might go before the Flyers anyway.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'd maybe hold off on that.
They have Rybakin going to the Flyers at 26. I would not mind that at all.
I don't mind that. He might just be the next Evgeny Kuznetsov.
Oh, that Kuznetsov, him and Michkov together would be insane. The Kuznetsov Ovi of the Flyers.
I meant more on the negative side of just.
On the negative side of things, he was good. He was good here. He won a cup.
He did. But he was also just extremely like in and out, like wishy-washy.
Yeah. I feel like I would hope that Michkov can help him lock in, but a late first round pick, that's the lottery ticket you take there, I think. Because from everything I've read, like he's like a top 10 talent, but like his work ethic might be an issue.
And that is a huge issue for the Flyers.
Just lock him in the gym with Michkov, and he'll get him going.
I would pay money to see that. That would be hilarious.
Yeah. All right. I think that's gonna about do it here for us. Joe, anything else you want to touch on here before we close it out?
No, I'm good.
All right, then. Make sure you guys are subscribed to BroadStreetHockey.com. Read and subscribe there. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Above 1,000 subscribers there, so we're going to keep that going. Draft content, off-season content coming up. Subscribe on Apple and Spotify. Shout out Bet Online once again. And Joe, where can people find you?
You can find me on Blue Sky at jfdemarini.bsky.social. All right. Where can they find you, Gilbs?
You can also find me on Blue Sky at ryangilbert.bsky.social. Until next time, thanks for listening.
Go Flyers.